Welcome, welcome, Michael Veitch. This is Chris Owens, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the People's Voice Cafe's interview series, or as I like to call it, PVC NYC TV. When you're looking for a brand, you're desperate. You know, that's the way it goes.
PVC, I like PVC. Yeah, right.
So, how are you today, and what's your life been like? That's kind of what we're going to talk about. If you don't mind educating our audience as to who you are, how you got into music, where you grew up, all those wonderful things that framed who you are today, and then we'll talk about the show.
I can give you like the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the 10 year. I mean,
go for the 10 to 15 minute version.
It's a long story, Chris.
Hey, come on, we got time.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. My name is Michael Veitch, and I am a singer-songwriter, and born in Vermont, raised in Vermont, grew up in Vermont, and I now live in Woodstock, New York. And it's been a long journey. I started out playing electric guitar. Well, I started out watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan when I was 9 years old, and that was it. That was the end for me. Decided immediately that I was going to become a musician, and I did. And I have been my whole life. It's been fantastic, to tell you the truth. I've had some really great moments, and it's still going on. And I'm coming to your place, man. So,
Yeah, you're coming to our town. I love it.
Yeah, it's still happening. It's still happening. I started out with the electric guitar, did a lot of that for many years. And then I realized at one point, I was playing in cover bands, and I realized at one point that I needed to write my own songs if I wanted to go anywhere. Of course, now tribute bands are the big thing. Everywhere you go, it's tribute bands. They don't want to talk to, not many people want the original music. It's kind of interesting. But I decided back in the 80s to start writing songs, and I did. And I was very fortunate to run into someone named Shawn Colvin, who you may have heard of. And she heard my stuff and said, hey, you've got something. You should really run with it. And then she gave me a name and a phone number and said, you got to call this guy. And it was Jack Hardy on West Houston Street from Fast Folk. So I did, and that led to about 4.5 years of basically going to his house every Monday night with a new song and sitting with a group of songwriters. And Shawn had kind of gone through that whole thing over many years and developed her songwriting. And I listened to Jack and everyone else who was there, David Massengill and others, and just really honed my craft, so to speak. And I'm forever grateful to Jack for being as hard as he was on me. He was not known for being a really easy tutor, let's put it that way. And I got a record deal on an indie label, put out a couple of my first records, played Newport Folk Festival, played a lot of festivals. I spent a lot of time at Kerrville, won a song contest at Kerrville. That was a big deal. Noel Paul Stuckey from the Peter, Paul and Mary had, he puts up all the royalties that he earns from his big song, the wedding song. He basically plows it back into public action. I'm an organizer by trade. Worked in the environmental field in Vermont for many, many years. And that activism that I developed in Vermont kind of has also translated somewhat into my music. And the song that won his contest was a political song. And that just kind of, everything just kind of slowly rolling along. I did a lot of performing, traveling around, and I don't know if you're familiar with the life of the folk singer, but it has its ups and downs. I think COVID knocked us out.
Sure.
The live show thing. I mean, in my case, it was 9/11 that hit. I was scheduled to play the living room the night of 9/11. Needless to say, I didn't make it, and I think live performance took a big hit then, and then COVID really did a number on it too. But I kept writing, kept performing, kept recording, doing as much as I can. Went to live in Germany for a couple of years,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, it was great. My partner got transferred to Germany by her company, and I went, and I had a great time. 2 years, wrote a lot of songs. I started the first German songwriter I ran into in Munich, because I went looking to see where the songwriters were hanging out. The very first songwriter comes up to me, and the first thing he says is, "Do you know Jack Hardy?" I'm like, "You know Jack?" And then, unfortunately, Jack had just passed away.
Right.
Of weeks before. It was horrible, and of course we know his brother died in the collapse of the Twin Towers, and Jack spent a lot of time down there after 9/11, and we all think that maybe that might have been the precursor to his death. But so I started a Jack Hardy songwriters group in Munich that still meets, and I'm still in touch with many of those songwriters, and they send me they write in English. They send me their lyrics sometimes and ask me to look at them. I've got one fellow who comes over here every year or two and records in Woodstock at Dreamland. I set him up with the studio there, and he comes and brings bands, and it's a thing. I started something, and it's still going, and it's very exciting.
That's quite an impressive legacy, actually, because passing down, one of the roles of the cultural worker, the songwriter, the storyteller, is to pass on the wisdom and the traditions, the rituals, the meanings of things that came before, not necessarily in the context of what came before, but in such a way that they can be used in the present day and in the future day. And so to have a songwriting group that has continued like that is pretty incredible. If I may ask you this question,
sure.
When it comes to writing a song for you, what is your most usual process? In other words, are you one of those guitarists who starts and sits down, strums a few chords, and lyrics pop into your head? Do you start with a concept and then lyrics, or then chords? Is it all of the above, or is it none of the above? How do you approach songwriting?
It's all of the above. It's all of the above, and I like a challenge. I've just completed a big project working with Holocaust survivors, writing songs.
Wow.
And I worked with two survivors, wrote two songs with them, co-written. And, it was magical. That's all I can say. I mean, the experience was magical. I studied the Holocaust when I was in Germany for 2 years. I did a lot of investigating into, Munich was ground zero, basically, for the German army and the war effort. So there's still a lot of stuff there to see, to learn about, and to write about. I wrote a number of songs related to what I was seeing and hearing and experiencing in Germany. And then to get the opportunity to work with the Holocaust survivors, and it was just, it was just a gift. But it comes, the writing, I don't force it. I'm not, I do play the guitar literally every day for at least an hour, sometimes longer. I get the riffs, I get the chord changes, I get the melodies, and I basically record them on my phone that we're talking on here. And they live on my phone, and then when I need something, I kind of go fishing around, or whatever. I keep them in the back of my mind, and then I'll get a lyric. And I'm sort of the Neil Young school, or even I just read Bob Dylan explaining that he didn't know where the songs came from, and I sort of subscribe to that school of thought. The Jack Hardy thing was invaluable for learning how to shape them and how to, turn them into something that could be easily communicated, the songs, I mean, editing, if you will, but and conceptualizing some of this stuff, but basically the seed for the song comes from who knows where. At least it does for me.
Right, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a related question. Living in Germany for the time that you were there,
yeah.
Both looking back as to what it was like to be in America as a songwriter, and then being in Germany as a songwriter, even though you knew you weren't going to live there for the rest of your life, or maybe you didn't know you weren't going to live there for the rest of your life. I don't know, but
I want to go back.
well, how would you compare the environments for original songwriters in each of these two, cultures? I mean, my impression as a longing to be an expat person is, if I go to Europe, it's going to be much easier to live the life I want to live as a creative soul than it is in America. Is that actually true? Is there more openness to the discussions that take place in original works that are not sounding just like a club record? Or is it just that's the way we perceive it because that's what we hear?
Well, first of all, there are a million different styles of music. Okay. So, I focus on a particular style or a particular, whatever. My lane is these kinds of songs. That said, I'm just going to quote Keb Mo, who came to Munich, and I got to hang out with him while he was there. We had a mutual friend, and she introduced me to Keb, and and he said point blank, he said Munich is a great place to write, and he, has, his friend lived in Munich, and he came and lived in Munich and wrote a lot of stuff, and I have to agree with him. I mean, first of all, the phone doesn't ring. So you don't get interrupted, which is like, for a writer, that is such a gift, to just be able to not be constantly picking up your phone or, I got to go do this, I got to do that. Basically, it was just sit and write, or paint. I did a lot of painting.
You're a
and
painter
exploring history, and so it was a very well-rounded experience. We got to travel quite a bit. Munich is a good location, and you can hit all these different countries with just a short. And now the euro is, believe it or not, the dollar is worth more than the euro. I mean, I want to go back because it would be like you live like a king now when you go back there. But yeah, I have to say, here in the States, it can be a little more difficult to tune in. In Europe, maybe there's more history. There are more. There's more spirit in the air. Maybe it's a part of the world where you're a little bit more opened up and can receive the songs. I don't know, but I wrote over 50 songs in 2 years over there, which is a lot for me. I mean, I'm still processing a lot of them. I just basically my latest recording project was kind of like wrapping up all the songs and recording the last batch of songs that I wrote in Germany years ago.
Interesting. So, and what is your most recent recording that you've released?
I picked a German title. It's called Wachtraum, and I've had a really good run with it. I got a #1, which I will play at the People's Voice Cafe with Judy Collins, and the song is called Valentine's Day. And we, the concept of the record was sort of like, well, I'm going to try to put these songs together so there's one for each month of the year. But I think I did more than 12 songs. So, I always throw a few more in for good measure. But Valentine's Day actually went to number one on the folk DJ charts, and that was really kind of a milestone for me. Another song that I've had extremely good luck with is called Veterans Day. And I was sitting in Germany at my piano, and I would always check my email because we're 6 hours, Germany was 6 hours kind of like ahead of the US.
Right.
So that was another reason the phone didn't ring.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm checking my email, and I got this email from Judy Collins, and I'm like, I don't know Judy Collins, and I got an email from her, and I'm like, what is this about? And I opened it up, and it was, dear Michael, I really would like, I love your song Veterans Day, and I'd like to record it. And I'm like, is this a joke? Is this one of my songwriter friends, playing a trick on me? I don't know,
The ultimate spam.
Yeah, and it turns out it really was Judy, and I said, of course, you can record all my songs, Judy. I mean, help yourself. And
right.
And it turns out that I had entered the song in a contest years before. I mean, like, we're talking 5 or 6 years before.
Mm-hmm.
And she had judged the contest. He had picked the song to win, and it didn't win. And she held on to it all those years.
It won with her. It won with her.
Oh, it totally knocked her out. She thought it was fantastic. And of course, this is the person who, discovered Joni Mitchell and Leonard Cohen, and, and she did all the Sondheim stuff. And I mean, come on, her whole career has been, Dave Carter is the latest that she's really big on, and God rest his soul. It's like, to be picked up by Judy was like, for a songwriter, it's sort of like, it doesn't get any better than that. It just so happened we were going to Paris for a week or a weekend or a long weekend, something like that. And she was performing in Paris. So I emailed her. I said, hey, we're going to be in Paris. Can I come down? And she gave us tickets. We went down. I went backstage, hung out with her, met her music director. I ended up opening shows for her.
Wow.
She recorded the song as a duet with Kenny White. And it was really, and of course I was in Europe. So, I mean, I couldn't sing on it, but Kenny did a fantastic job. And, it's like, and then she went ahead and recorded it again for a video recording live at the Temple of Dendur at the Metropolitan Museum. And Kenny White again sang the duet. She had a full band. And then her husband, who writes, who designs war memorials, calls me up. He wants to use the lyrics for a book that he's written about the Korean War Memorial that he designed in Washington, D.C. And he used the lyrics in the book. I mean, it's like, this song just like took off and off and off, and it's still going. I mean, it's crazy.
That's so inspiring. I mean, you hear these stories all the time of, the one song that truly launched a songwriter's career in many ways. In your case, this one song was not at the front end of your career. You were a seasoned songwriter, and all of the work you put into developing your craft, as you put it earlier, came into play in creating this song. And there's no way you would have known that it was going to be taking off around the world the way it did with Judy Collins. That's fantastic. Are you going to perform that song at People's
That
Voice?
song will be performed as well. Yes, absolutely.
Good.
It's a standard. She insisted that I put it into my set list.
And what Judy says, Judy,
whatever Judy says is fine with me. I will do it. The Holocaust songwriting project also became kind of like this big deal. It was sponsored by grants, basically, and we were given a stipend, and basically the process was sitting with this Holocaust survivor for a minimum of 12 visits. So it was a process, a long process.
Sure.
And I loved every minute of it, getting to know these people who are extremely unique, extremely incredible to hear their stories and to work with. And we were followed by a film crew who had volunteered their time. They were just doing it out of love, basically. These were professional documentary filmmakers who got hooked into this project just basically to see what would happen.
And I'm sorry, and this project was here in the States or in Germany?
It's here in the States after Germany.
Okay.
Here in the States. I mean, I'm sitting with people who got out of Germany and survived the Holocaust. Now, many of their family members did not survive. And that is also part of the story. And it's a very moving story. So the film crew follows us around. They film us in the homes with the Holocaust survivors. They interview us, they interview them. And then the whole project culminated in a big concert. And we had a small orchestra behind us, and it was a full packed house, and we're all up there doing the songs, and this is all filmed. And then they took everything back and edited everything down, and they pitched it to PBS. PBS bought it. They said, "Yeah, we'll put it on." We had an hour long program.
When was this?
It was last April.
Oh no, I missed it.
Well, it's still out there.
I can watch it through Passport, right?
Yes, it lives forever
on the internet,
on the World Wide Web. I remember when we used to call it that. It's called "We Remember: Songs of Survivors," and you can. I think it's still available on Apple TV or whatever. Just Google it. It'll
sure.
And there are four of us are featured. And that's how I met Judy Kass. She didn't make it into the film, but she was in the second round of working with Holocaust survivors. And that's how I met her. I didn't know her. And she was working with a different survivor of the Holocaust. We had a whole separate concert during COVID. I mean, it was like, I was lucky. I met with my survivor quite a few times before COVID hit, and believe it or not, it is very difficult to co-write a song over Zoom. It doesn't have the same feel to it. Sure. So I was lucky. I had a lot of sit downs, personal visits with my survivor before COVID hit. But the rest of the songwriters, and then the concert itself was a streaming live, no audience. It was.
Yep, I've done one of those. Everybody wearing a mask.
Yeah, it was really strange. It was really strange. But that's how I met Judy, and I was working on Voktron at that time, and I asked her if she was interested in co-writing a song, and we co-wrote a song that is on that record. Here, everybody's up on the roof. They're going crazy here.
On the roof.
Yeah, up on the roof. They're working on my gutters today.
Better now than have the next flood take them all down, right?
Tell me about it. We co-wrote a song called April Fools, for April Fool's Day, of course.
Right.
And so after that, we just said, hey, let's do a couple of shows together. So here we are. We're coming to your place. The next night we're going to be at the Town Crier. It's just a little abbreviated kind of like, let's see what's going on out there kind of adventure.
Do you and Judy do a lot of shows together, or was this
This is
sort
our
of a recent thing?
This is a new thing. We're trying it out. We'll see how it goes. And the idea will be that we'll both be on stage. We'll just be swapping songs and, contributing here and there to each other's songs. I play a wonderful lead guitar. So, my goal is to, add a little bit of guitar embellishment to some of her stuff, and she can sing some harmony on some of my stuff. And, we'll go, and hopefully we'll do the song we wrote together and a couple of other things, a couple of other duet-y kind of things.
That's quite exciting. Quite exciting. I'm looking forward to it. If we could flip back for a second.
Sure.
Where did you go to school, and what sort of work did your parents do?
My father was born in Scotland, came over in the early 1920s to New York City. He won the New York City Art Award one year, high school art award, got a scholarship to Columbia, went to Columbia, and, his father had been a paper maker, paper mills. And he had grown up in Scotland. The father brings the son to work with him and, teaches him how the business works and everything. And so he had that side of him, but he was also an artist, a commercial artist. And he got a letter from Walt Disney inviting him to come to California. Walt Disney was looking for people to do animation. And he also had a letter from a paper mill up in Vermont saying, come to Vermont, we need someone to manage this paper mill. So before he went to California, he went to Vermont and met my mother. And within 2 weeks, they got married, and he basically turned down Walt Disney, but did not go work on animation. He worked on commercial art for the company up in Vermont that printed the paper. One of his biggest hits was a thing called Say It With Flowers, and they still make it today. You go into a floral shop, they wrap the flowers in paper. It says Say It With Flowers on it, and that was his creation.
Wow.
So it's always a riot for me. I've been on the subway in New York, and somebody comes in and they've got the flowers, and there it says Say It With Flowers, and it's always like, oh, there's Dad, saying hello from wherever he is, sending a little, message out.
That sounds like a song to me.
It is as well. I've written a few. My mother was a, wannabe actress, but, ended up just raising us as kids. I come from a big family. My oldest brother has passed away, but he was a beat poet on the Lower East Side. My neighbor here in Woodstock is Ed Sanders, from the Fugs. And, he just came across the recording of him and my brother giving a poetry reading at St. Mark's Place in 1973. And I'm like, whoa, So everybody, my brother's archives have gone to Yale. Ed's are going to Princeton. I have another brother, Rick, whose archives are going to Columbia. Rick is a comic book artist. He's he worked for DC and Marvel.
Oh, okay.
Metal, and worked with Alan Moore, worked with Neil Gaiman. He's big time. So we come from a very talented family. What can I say?
And you paint too. So painting for you
I do painting, yes.
Is that more therapeutic, or is that something that you've tried to sell?
You asked about college. I went to college in Manhattan at SUNY Empire, graduated from SUNY Empire. And while I was there, I studied photography. I always wanted to do photography. And I got to hang out with Nan Golden. I got to hang out with Mel Rosenthal, who ran the course, and got to meet some really great street photographers. I learned the craft that led to painting. I mean, I've got an eye. So my father was he dabbled in oil painting, and I just figured I would take it up at some point in my life. And when I went to Germany, it was write the songs, paint the paintings. And I came home with 50 songs and about 30 paintings. So,
Wow.
so I'm scrambling here in Woodstock to get back. I've got my studio is built, which is half music, half painting. And I've got the music side of it going pretty good. And now I'm scrambling to find the time to sit and get back to the painting. I'm hanging paintings basically right now.
Right,
So,
right. Well, my experience with Woodstock, I've gone up and done work at Mark Dan's studio. So now it looks like I need to hang out with you and check out your studio as well.
well, it's a personal studio at the moment. I did a number of recordings with Mark. In fact, Veterans Day was recorded at Mark Dan's studio.
Really?
But currently I work with Julie Last, who has a small kind of a songwriter studio. She's got a long history. I met her actually at a Shawn Colvin recording session in the city, Shelter Sound. She was working with Shawn. And that's where I met her. And then I run into her on the street in Woodstock. She had moved here. And I said, what are you doing here? And she, at that point, was not doing any recording. And I kind of talked her into helping me do a record that was recorded basically in her living room. And then one thing led to another, and she built a studio. I encouraged her. And now it's a full-blown, full on thing that she does for a living, and it's great.
How did you end up in Woodstock?
Well, we were living in Brooklyn, and
where? What part?
Carroll Gardens. I was in Carroll Gardens for about 5 years, and those were the years I was going into Jack Hardy's, just get on the subway and go to Jack's, it was great. But, the rents, even then, we're talking the 90s, the rents were going up and up every year and every year. And I knew in my gut that if we bought a house, it would be a better investment than just giving money to the landlord. And so I started looking for a house, and, I just kept going farther north until all of a sudden I found Woodstock. I'd never been here. Drove in to town and instantly just said, this is it. It reminded me of Vermont, and it reminded me of Austria, actually, too. It has a very similar vibe to the Austrian Alps, and which are like the foothills to the Alps. And Catskills are, beautiful. And it turns out we came in at kind of like the tail end of the big IBM closing down in Kingston.
Right.
And a couple thousand houses came on the market. It was glutted. And we came in at the tail end, bought a house. One thing led to another. I split up with my wife, and I bought another house in town, the cheapest house I could find. And that's where I am now. And I've basically torn down most of it, rebuilt, put on new additions, It's been a purse out of the sow's ear.
Right.
But it turns out that I picked the right spot because I'm walked to town in Woodstock. It's, as everything's gone crazy here with the prices.
Sure.
So I got in. I bought in, and
I have to say that my experiences, being a New Yorker and all, how can you be a New Yorker and not have contact with Woodstock? Well, I can confess that I had almost no contact whatsoever with Woodstock when I was younger, other than when my parents drove up to visit a friend of theirs, Sidney Cowell, whose husband Henry Cowell was a composer. And I was too young then to appreciate what I was looking at. But when I went up to Mark Dan's studio to record what would become my first music video, met his daughter, who was 17 at the time, who ended up co-directing my first music video. I drove around a little bit and I was like, this is a pretty cool place, but it's also expensive. Now, this was during COVID that I went up there.
I'm running for town board in Woodstock.
Oh, politics. Oh, yeah.
I'm running for town board, and the election is going to be November 7th. I'm currently the chair of the Woodstock Tree Committee. Yeah, it's a town sponsored committee. Our mission is to plant, street trees. We have a lot of old trees along our streets, and they're dying off, and we're trying to bring in the new ones that are going to take their place. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. And I'm on the Commission for Civic Design in Woodstock, which is involved in historic preservation. These are all areas I have a real strong interest in. And I've been very active in the community. I was one of the founders of the Farm Festival here in Woodstock. I joined a group that were, they were trying to get a farmers market started in Woodstock, and they were having a hard time. And I was like, a farmer's market in Woodstock? Why are you having difficulty? What's the problem? And of course, I got involved basically to try to help get through the politics. You see, they're very dense here and on the local level.
It's small town.
It took 5 years, but we succeeded. I moved here thinking that I was moving to a very progressive community, and that I would not have to work very hard on, doing all the good stuff that progressives and environmentalists and historians and historic preservationists and so forth. I just thought all of that was going to be taken care of. I didn't have to work at it. It was a real revelation when, I realized that this was not the town I thought I was moving to. And of course, I had to get involved immediately on a big organizing effort to save a 75-acre property right in the middle of town. The town fathers wanted to develop it, and I got involved with a group that wanted to save it, and we saved it. We won. It's now in permanent conservation easement, permanently protected.
Wonderful.
I've been very active in the community, and in addition to everything else I do. And so now I'm running for town office. And
are you able to integrate the music into that? Because after all, we're all cultural workers, engaged in these fights. How does your music support the desires that you want to express?
Well, what I'm bringing to the table is I want to support the arts in Woodstock. One of the little unknown facts about the Woodstock town government is that there's very little support for the arts, and we are a colony of the arts. We've got Birdcliff up on the mountain. We've got numerous galleries. We've got musicians living everywhere. We've got screenwriters, playwrights, movie makers, illustrators, artists, and very little money flows down to help, foster and, develop young artists, who need, help with various things. And so that's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm an artist, and and a musician and a songwriter. And this isn't Canada where you get a stipend, basically they pay you to be a musician in Canada,
Right.
So, and other countries too. So, that's what I'm bringing. In terms of the music, well, I've done for many years, I've done a TV show, a weekly TV show here on Public Access called Progressive Issues. And of course I do the theme music. So that's, and I'm always, I'm always available for playing benefits. And we just did a big benefit for Tom Pacheco, who is, a very well-known singer-songwriter, older than me. And he needed some help. and a bunch of us got together, and John Sebastian was there, and Happy Prom, and Cindy Cash Dollar. Ed Sanders of the Thugs was the organizer, and so I mean, I show up for those. I do a really nice duet with Julie last. She and I have worked together now for years on my music, and I've worked on her music and stuff. So we closed the show. It was great at the Colony, packed house, raised all this money. I mean, that's what I love about the music scene and the art scene here in Woodstock, is that people do rise to the occasion and give back and support their fellow musicians and artists and stuff in a really positive way. If I get on the town board, we're going to hire a grant writer who is going to help the arts groups and the artists and the people in need to write these grants and get these grants in and get access to the money that is out there. I mean,
that's right. It's out there.
Well, listen,
this has been wonderful, and I certainly can't wait to come and see you on your home turf and get the ultimate guide to Woodstock and music history.
I'll show you where the bodies are buried.
That sounds great. You hear that, audience? You right?
Yeah, there you go.
He knows where all the bodies are buried.
I've been here almost 25 years, and it took a few years, but I know where they're all buried.
I love it. I love it. And I'd like to thank you for joining us today. This has been wonderful. And there's so much more I could ask you, but we don't have the time right now. Maybe we'll do another one. And I definitely look forward to seeing you perform and hearing you, and Judy Cass as well. That should be great. I'm talking to her later today. So have a wonderful day. Enjoy the good weather. I hope the gutters all work out. And I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks at the People's Cafe.
Okay, we'll be there. Sounds great, man.
We will talk again very, very soon.
Okay, man. Thank you.
You're very welcome.